I think a lot of people, when they're looking for a reason to explain the current government shutdown, which is in day one of, I think, at least 10 days, um, they look to these policy disagreements. This is really about the extension of Obamacare subsidies. This is really about hating Donald Trump and not being willing to give him what he wants. When in fact, I think you always have to first think of the politics, and not just the broad national politics, but the small politics of the people involved, which gets me to what I want to talk about today, which is that I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez may be the thing, the codex that explains why we are where we are in a government shutdown. Now, that may seem odd, but I'll explain. Okay. So to go forward, we need to go back to March. In March, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader from New York, announces that he is going to vote to keep the government open. He doesn't want to run the risk, in Schumer's words, of allowing Elon Musk and his Doge people, they were big back then, to have a chance to cut even more federal workers by closing down the government. So he's going to keep it open. He's not going to get any concessions from the Trump administration, but he's going to keep it open and therefore keep it away from the sort of meat cleaver approach to the federal government that Elon Musk and Donald Trump have taken. Okay. Now, Schumer probably figured he was going to take some flack for that, but I do not think he thought he was going to take the amount of flack from the left that he took. He was absolutely vilified for getting nothing and voting with Republicans to keep the government open back in March. And one of the voices that was most prominent in speaking out against that was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, when the New York Congresswoman, who is widely seen as a potential statewide candidate in New York or a potential nationwide candidate in 2028. Here's what Ocasio-Cortez, Schumer's vote to keep the government open back in March, she called it, quote, a tremendous mistake. Okay, so we're going to move to the present, and then we're going to move to the future, and I'll explain why I think AOC unlocks why we are where we are. Before I do that, I want to make a pitch to you, which is I hope you subscribe to this channel. 2 words explain why. Independent, authentic. Independent from big corporate media and also independent from the 2 political parties. That's me. Authentic. I will always tell you what I think is going on. I will never tell you something that you want to hear solely because I think it'll make you more likely to subscribe. I am not in the fan service business. Okay. Pitch over. So where are we now? Well, Chuck Schumer, who is still the Senate Minority Leader, who is up in 2028 for reelection to a 5th term, looks at the landscape, okay? And he says, all right, well, we need to get something from Republicans this time around and Donald Trump. So I'm going to say we need to get the extension of these healthcare subsidies for Obamacare. I think Schumer knows it's very unlikely he's going to get that. Trump is in control. Trump thinks a shutdown is fine for him. So I think Schumer gets that that's not likely to happen. And so Schumer in his mind thinks a shutdown is probably likely. Does he concede? Does he blink in this situation? He does not. And it's not really for political reasons, for policy reasons. It's for political reasons. All right. So I mentioned this, but let's go right into it. Chuck Schumer has been in the Senate since 1998. In 2028, he will be up for a 5th term. He is currently, hold on, I wrote it down. He is currently 74 years old. He'll be 76-ish in 2028, 77 potentially, which is very old. But again, our president is 79 years old. Our last president was 81 years old. The Senate is pretty old. So he could run for another term. Now, Schumer hasn't said whether he wants to run for another term or not, but I think he absolutely wants to keep that possibility open. And for someone with the storied career of Chuck Schumer, he spent almost 20 years in the House, then in the Senate. He's the leader of the Senate Democrats. He doesn't want the narrative to be in 2028 that he retired to run away from certain defeat in a Democratic primary, okay, in the state of New York. So he wants there to at least be a credible, plausible opening for him to run for another term. And I think what he does is he looks at the situation. He looks at the outrage from the left from March, and he says, if I don't get something big and deliverable for Democrats out of this shutdown, I'm screwed politically. I will lose this race. So I am going to go forward with the shutdown, and I am going to keep my Democratic caucus in line and make sure we do not give Democrats, the Republicans, the 7 votes they need to keep the government open. Okay. He does all of this. I do think at least, well, I was going to say in part, but I think in large part because of the worry about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm not the only one. This I thought was very revealing. Mark Wayne Mullen, who is a Republican from Oklahoma, he was on Fox Business Channel on Tuesday, the day before the shutdown, and he said this of the shutdown. This is a Schumer hysteria act. Schumer knows he can't afford to vote for this, meaning the House passed government funding resolution. Mark Wayne went on. Here you have a career politician who is more afraid of his reelection than he is in doing what's right for the American people. This is what happens when you have a career politician. He is afraid of AOC over a clean, continuing resolution. I think that's in the main true. Now, does Schumer have policy disagreements? Does he want to get policy? Sure, absolutely. But I think if there was no politics involved in this, I think those policy disagreements might have mattered a little bit less. But with the threat of, look, if you keep the government open here, you're not going to have a choice. You're going to have to retire or lose in a 2028 primary. I think that does have an impact. And, I just went and looked at the potential of an AOC Schumer race. And look, if I'm Chuck Schumer, I'd be very nervous too, okay? There was a poll in April done by a liberal group that had AOC at 55 in a primary to Schumer's 36. There was a poll in May done that had AOC at 54 to Schumer's 33. You get the idea. Even if the poll is too flowery for AOC, too favorable, too positive for her, she's still probably ahead by a double digits at this point. She has also spent the summer at a series of town halls in upstate New York, which you would not necessarily do if you just wanted to stay in the house. But the thing is, AOC is 35 years old, right? She is 40 years, basically, Chuck Schumer's junior. She could well run for president in 2028. So Schumer's up for reelection in 2028. The Democratic presidential nomination is open in 2028. AOC spent some of her summer in upstate New York, but she also spent some of her summer and her fall on the Fighting Oligarchy national tour with Bernie Sanders that was attended by thousands and thousands of people everywhere they went. She is raising money hand over fist. She has, this is amazing, across Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter /X, and Facebook, she has 36.7 million followers. I continue to argue that if she ran for president, she is never probably lower than the top 3. Right now, I have her ranked number 2 behind Gavin Newsom. I've had her ranked number 1 before. So all of this is sort of getting back to, what does AOC want to do? Axios reported in September that her advisors are sort of preparing dual tracks, a Senate race in 2028 against Schumer, or in an open seat, or a race for president. So keeping all her options open. She herself is not talking a lot about it, but I do think that there is a sort of direct line between Chuck Schumer's concern about a Democratic primary from AOC in 2028 to where we are today, which is the government shutdown. Again, it's not the only reason, but it's not an insubstantial reason either. So you could call this sort of the AOC shutdown, or the fear of AOC shutdown, because I think that does play a role. Remember, these people are politicians. They do and act politically. They think of politics first, second, and last. It's what they do. All right. Thanks for listening. I hope you subscribe. Again, independent and authentic. Those are my North Stars. I also hope you like and comment on this video. Helps me build my community here on YouTube and get my content out to people who are not already subscribers. Last thing, be an evangelist for me. Tell 5 people, 3 people, 20 people why you subscribe to my channel and why they should too. Okay. Take care.